Hi, I'm Sarah Abdi, and today I'm going to be talking about intersectional, post-colonial, and modern feminism. So, intersectional feminism is a term that was coined in the third wave, mostly credited to Kimberly Crenshaw, who was a critical race legal scholar interested in the way that the law treats people of different identities and how those intersecting identities were not previously taken into account. This theory is meant to account for all forms of inequality, especially through the lens that inequality in itself is not equal. For example, Black American women in the US do not face the same issues that white women in the US do. This theory can also be closely related to post-colonial feminism, as it is also inclusive of feminism around the world. One's racial and socioeconomic status both play into the way that they are discriminated against systematically. Post-colonial feminism has long been seen as a theory relevant to the global south and specific geographical locations that were, as the name suggests, formerly colonized. Theorists today seek to explore how post-colonial issues are an issue in both the global south and the global north, even in areas that were not explicitly at one point colonized. Post-colonial feminist theory, similarly to intersectional theory, takes into account many identities such as gender, sex, and race, as well as anti-empire or imperialist movements. More importantly, this theory recognizes the third world woman and the erasure of women living in post-colonial nations through the racialized lens of the white Western woman. Mohanty's work shows that while women globally are seen as a homogeneous group facing the same struggles through social and anthropological means, the third world woman is often seen as an implicit victim to male violence. In comparison, this situates the Western woman as a modern, sophisticated, and empowered individual. Modern feminist concerns are involving work and pay equality, reproductive rights, and gender-based violence. A large critique of feminist movements has been that the individualistic goals of Western women, especially those who identify as feminists, specifically in the work-life balance context. This has become an issue because of the lack of inclusion of different feminists' lived experience and the lack of activism that comes with self-advocacy. This is why contemporary feminism has evolved to include different identities that suffer from wildly different inequalities. Intersectional and post-colonial feminism highlights the struggles of marginalized women globally and their experiences that involve overlapping identities as well as socioeconomic standing. Intersectional and post-colonial feminism has brought attention to the issue of state violence against women. So, a recent issue that has been at the forefront of women's rights concerns is the law concerning compulsory veiling in Iran. In 2024, a law was introduced that lists numerous cruel punishments for the women who do not abide by forced veiling. These punishments include lengthy prison sentences, travel bans, fines, restrictions on employment and education, as well as flogging, among other things. Also, there is currently a war in Congo with many concern for the human rights of citizens, particularly women and girls. There are conflicts on the basis of land, ethnic cleansing, and valuable materials such as Congo's cobalt mines. One group, the M23, which is an armed group backed by Rwanda, owns portions of land in eastern Congo, and recently they have been sanctioned for the rape, targeting, and imprisonment of women. Women in Congo are not just experiencing heightened levels of violence, they are also unable to seek or acquire justice due to the strengthening tensions and lack of social services in the nation. Intersectional feminism does not just account for issues concerning marginalized groups, it also provides a platform for women's rights and issues on a global scale. And post-colonial feminist theory is important for understanding how women are targets for violence in countries that have been long destabilized by Western powers. One major conflict in today's feminism is TERFs. TERFs are feminists who adhere to rhetoric that excludes trans women and are often in support of legislation that restricts them. In the US, we see this through bathroom bans and anti-trans sports bills. Along with violence perpetrated against LGBTQ+ individuals, trans women experience a lot of the same violence as cisgendered women do. Intersectional feminism applies to trans women as trying to form a second class of woman does nothing to support liberation. Post-colonial feminists also highlight issues with feminist movements tailored for the Western woman that excludes issues that women face globally. This is often called white or Western feminism. As mentioned before, in nations divided by war or occupation, sexual violence and the targeting of women is common. Post-colonial feminists call to bring attention to the women who suffer from violence in the midst of political instability. Feminism that is inclusive of different identities is most beneficial to the cause of solidarity. We see solidarity everywhere, with women in the West protesting against the genocide in Palestine, as well as American women of different races advocating for the missing and murdered Indigenous woman cause. Due to a difference in our ability to fight for causes on the other side of the world, we have seen a rise in collectivism. Collectivism is the use of social media to advocate for causes, especially ones that do not receive attention in mainstream media. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the book We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Chimamanda is a Nigerian feminist author who is best known for her books Americana and Half of a Yellow Sun. Her book We Should All Be Feminists was inspired by her TED Talk with the same title. She discussed her discovery of the term feminist at a very young age. She experienced backlash to her feminist thoughts and writing, with many stating that feminists were man-hating and anti-African culture. Some of the important themes in her speech were that women and girls are not born inferior to men. Rather, we are conditioned and taught that we deserve less and should be second to our male counterparts in all aspects, particularly achievements and pay. In my opinion, this quote best represents Chimamanda's views on feminism. Gender matters everywhere in the world. And I would like today to ask that we begin to dream about a plan. We dream about and plan for a different world, a fairer world, a world of happier men and happier women who are truer to themselves. And this is how to start. We must raise our daughters differently. We must also raise our sons differently. The End SARS movement was a movement that gained traction mainly in 2022 with protests against police brutality by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, also known as SARS, who operates through unlawful arrests, killings, and harassment. Young Nigerian women became the main advocates for the End SARS movement, being immensely involved with organizing and platforming the cause. Young women in Nigeria have been behind several transnational feminist movements, such as Bring Back Our Girls, after the numerous kidnappings in Boko Haram